we're going to talk about the issue of legal parentage, which I know is something you are particularly interested in. Can you sort of define for us what that issue is? And then what I want to try to do is take a few steps back and get some of the background out about marriage equality, and then how that has led us to where we are today, and why this issue of legal parentage is something of a frontier in terms of the law in this area. So, first of all, what does that mean, legal parentage, and what is that issue?
Well, typically in the context of family formation law, legal parentage comes up in potentially challenges to legal parentage are whether someone is actually a parent, even though they may not be genetically connected to a child. They may have no genetic relationship because the child was conceived through some type of assisted reproduction, such as using an egg donor, a sperm donor, or even embryo donation is becoming more common. So the question becomes, if there is no genetic connection, how is that person a legal parent? How is that defined? How do they become a legal parent? And there's different theories on how that happens, and this is all developing at the state level. So there's 50 different states, and there's 50 different potential approaches to how states look at the issue of legal parentage. Some states take a statutory approach where it's actually defined.
Defined by law.
Defined by law,
steps in and
yes. Who is a
defines
legal parent, and they will lay out who it actually is a legal parent, and it may not necessarily just be parents who came about through adoption or genetic connection. So there may be a statutory scheme, but in many other cases there is not a formal definition, and so it's kind of a moving target in most states at this point.
And I take it Pennsylvania is one of those states where the legislature has not stepped in and, along with the governor, passed a law to define what is a parent in this area.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
So it's all open field right now.
There is no statute in Pennsylvania where you can look up and say who is a parent.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so there is no statutory definition of who is a parent. So you have a lot of different cases that develop through different fact scenarios that examine this issue, and there's so many different approaches that can develop, the law in one way or another. But statutory law is not something we can really look to for help in Pennsylvania.
So for a heterosexual couple, they have a baby, it's probably doesn't even enter their minds that there would be a question that both parents are legally, not just, hey, that's my child, but legally recognized by law are parents. But when you're dealing with same-sex couples and creating a family, this becomes a matter of law. These become legal questions, and that's something you're seeing in your practice all the time, I take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way that it plays out really for same-sex couples is that they disproportionately are, using assisted reproductive technology to create and form their families physically, because obviously opposite-sex couples have the old-fashioned way, and they are both genetically related. You have a mom baby was created from her egg. You have a dad where the baby was created from his sperm. The mom probably carried that baby in her uterus, so they are the parents because of their DNA. They don't need something else that says they're a parent. Mm-hmm. By virtue of their DNA, they are, in fact, both physically and in law, the parents of that child. But if that couple, let's say, used a sperm donor, what would the answer to that question be? And because same-sex couples, in order to conceive biology, always have to turn, essentially, to some form of assisted reproduction. Every family who's a same-sex couple typically is conceived that way. There's always going to be some other third party involved in the conception, either an egg donor, sperm donor, an embryo donation, or a gestational surrogate, or some other kind of person who has some sort of physical biological connection to that arrangement.
So there's not only questions of the legal rights of the parents involved in raising that child, but you also have to consider there may be issues involving whoever that third party is who was involved in the creating of that child.
Absolutely. So is that surrogate going to be determined to be a legal
donor.
mother? Yeah. Or is the sperm donor going to be determined to be a legal father?
Right.
And these types of questions usually come up in a situation where there's a dissolution of the family and one or more parties have an interest in challenging the legal parentage of one of the parties. So then you have litigation, unfortunately, and how that plays out.